Welcome, my dear. Come sit with me for a little while, and let us remember some of life's gentle things. There was a time when nearly every family quietly kept a small reserve of food, not out of fear, but out of love for the days when life became uncertain. Many grandmothers believed that a well-stocked pantry brought a special kind of peace to a home. Difficult seasons arrived in every generation. Harsh winters, failed harvests, illness, or simply lean months when money was scarce. And yet, many families endured because they remembered simple foods that could nourish both body and spirit. Some of these humble foods quietly remained in kitchens for centuries. Science is slowly rediscovering why our ancestors trusted them so deeply. Tonight, we will gently revisit the foods families once stored for difficult times, and perhaps, in remembering them, we may rediscover a quiet sense of security of our own. I still remember opening my grandmother's pantry as a child and feeling as though I had stepped into a quiet treasure room. There were shelves lined with carefully labeled jars, sacks of grain, and baskets tucked neatly into corners. Nothing was stored carelessly. Every jar represented foresight, patience, and care for the family. Long before supermarkets existed, families depended on what they had thoughtfully prepared. In biblical times as well, storing grain, oil, and dried foods was considered simple wisdom. Many traditions survived because they offered comfort during uncertain moments. Today, some researchers are beginning to understand that many traditional pantry foods were also remarkable. While nourishing, perhaps our ancestors knew something simple that modern life sometimes forgets. That feeling prepared often means feeling calm. One food almost every traditional household stored was dried beans. Beans could remain usable for long periods when kept dry and protected. Many families believed beans represented quiet abundance. In difficult winters, a simple pot of beans often fed many mouths. I still remember the comforting smell drifting through old kitchens on cold afternoons. Today, modern studies quietly support beans as nourishing sources of fiber and plant protein. Many families season them simply with garlic, onions, or herbs from the garden. Simple foods often carried extraordinary comfort, and perhaps that comfort mattered just as much as nourishment itself. Even today, a jar of dried beans resting quietly in the pantry can feel reassuring. There was a time when few pantry shelves were considered complete without a sack of oats. Resting quietly in the corner, for generations, oats were treasured because they were simple, affordable, and wonderfully filling. Many families depended on a warm bowl of porridge to begin difficult winter mornings. I still remember waking to the gentle smell of oats simmering on the stove before sunrise. Some traditions quietly survived because a small amount of oats could nourish an entire family. In many cultures, oats came to symbolize endurance and steady strength. Today, modern studies quietly support oats for their nourishing fiber and gentle support of heart health. Many grandmothers added cinnamon, apples, or a spoonful of honey to make the meal feel especially comforting. Simple foods often carried people through seasons when very little else was available. Even today, a jar of oats tucked quietly into the pantry can still offer a sense of reassurance. Few foods have been cherished for as long as honey. For thousands of years, families carefully stored honey for both nourishment and comfort. In biblical traditions, honey often symbolized abundance, blessing, and sweetness. Many homes kept a jar nearby because honey could remain usable for remarkably long periods. I still remember grandparents stirring honey into warm tea whenever someone felt weary or unwell. Science is slowly rediscovering some of honey's naturally soothing qualities. Many grandmothers believed a spoonful of honey carried a little sunshine into difficult days. Perhaps that is why honey remained a treasured pantry companion for so many generations. Some traditions survive simply because they continue to comfort us, and few foods offer comfort quite as gently as honey. For many families, potatoes were more than food. They were security. Stored properly in cool places, potatoes could nourish households for many months. When harvest seasons were generous, families often stored enough potatoes to last the winter. I still remember old root cellars smelling faintly of earth, wood, and autumn leaves. A simple potato soup often brought warmth during long winter evenings. Modern nutrition quietly confirms that potatoes provide valuable nourishment when prepared simply. Many kitchens transformed potatoes into soups, breads, stews, and comforting casseroles. There was a reason so many families always kept them close at hand. Dependable foods often become quiet members of the family story, and few foods have carried more families through difficult seasons than the humble potato. Garlic has quietly occupied a place of honor in kitchens for thousands of years. Many families believed a home should never be without it. Long ago, garlic was valued not only for flavor, but also for the comfort it seemed to provide. Some kitchens always smelled faintly of garlic simmering gently in soup pots. I still remember garlic hanging beside the kitchen window throughout the winter months. Today, science is slowly rediscovering many of garlic's traditional qualities. Many grandmothers added garlic generously to broths, stews, and simple meals. There was a quiet wisdom in keeping simple ingredients close at hand. Perhaps traditions endure because they continue to nourish both memory and body. And garlic remains one of those timeless kitchen companions. Perhaps no tradition captured the spirit of preparedness more beautifully than preserving food for winter. Every summer, Many families carefully transformed gardens into rows of shining jars. The process required patience, but the reward was profound. I still remember shells glowing with peaches, tomatoes, berries, and pickled vegetables. Many grandmothers called these jars summer stored safely for winter. Opening a jar in January often brought back memories of gardens in full bloom. Simple traditions like these helped families face uncertainty with greater peace. Preparedness was rarely about fear. It was usually an expression of care. There was comfort in knowing nourishment waited quietly on the shelf. And perhaps that feeling of quiet reassurance is still valuable today. In biblical households, grain and olive oil were often considered essential gifts of daily life. Families stored them carefully because they provided dependable nourishment throughout the year. Bread baked from stored grain sustained countless generations. Olive oil brought flavor, nourishment, and light to everyday life. Many ancient traditions understood that humble staples could sustain both body and community. Science is slowly rediscovering the value of many traditional dietary patterns centered on simple foods. Perhaps wisdom sometimes lives quietly in the foods people have trusted for centuries. These traditions remind us that abundance is not always complicated. Sometimes it begins with a few humble ingredients shared with love, and that lesson remains just as meaningful today. When we look back at traditional pantries, we discover something deeper than food. We discover love carefully stored for future days. Many grandmothers quietly prepared not because they feared tomorrow, but because they cared for those around them. Preparedness was often an act of tenderness. Perhaps that quiet wisdom still has something to teach our hearts, because uncertain seasons will always come and go. Yet simple acts of care continue to steady us. Sometimes peace begins with a warm kitchen and a thoughtfully prepared shelf. And perhaps that is why these traditions have quietly survived for generations, because they remind us that caring for one another is timeless. Perhaps the greatest lesson our ancestors left behind was not simply what to store. It was the quiet habit of preparing with love, because difficult seasons have always come and gone, and through them all, simple food often carried families forward. Take gentle care of yourself this week, and may your home always hold a little comfort, a little peace, and enough to share.